He said, all fuel will be coming from plant sources. 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. So along with his 200 inventions. So just as a person knowing of what this man did. Oh, and how did he say he did it? Oh, he was interviewed by white journalists, and they were like, because he reached the top honors in the country in terms of science, right?
Yeah.
In his discipline, and they interviewed him and said, well, wait a minute. How are you able to do, how did you figure out this? How did you figure out that? And what made you know that this plant could be, he said, well, the plants, they talk to me. Okay?
That's how I know.
That's how I know. You know? And then he just put the science on top of it. He was...
Yeah.
That's who we are.
Unique Entrepreneurial Ventures. I'll be your host. My name is Ogweno Stephen. Let's roll.
So that's one thing. And then some of the other interesting things is blood plasma, for example.
Absolutely.
You know, the pacemaker machine.
Let's talk about blood plasma. See, one of the problems with invention is people, particularly Europeans, they never give any context of what the invention was really, and at the time in which it was invented, what was the status of the world and its impact. Blood plasma. Blood plasma was developed by an African man, and he did it at a time when there was a desperate need during World War I, where there was a desperate need for a means of saving blood for injured troops.
Yeah.
Prior to that, and refrigeration was also a major part of it, which also was invented by an African.
It was.
So those two things saved millions of lives.
Yeah.
You know, during World War I. And without them, there would never have been and not only did he invented the blood bank.
Yeah.
Okay. Meaning the system of maintaining the blood in its serum form so that it could be used, you know, later.
Yeah.
It's just like, and so the context of the invention in terms of, for example, George Washington Carver, the greatest botanist in history. One of the things, one really needs to know about who this man was and what he did. It is so inspiring. And at the depth of his contribution. For example, he was a naturalist. And what his inventions and his work was so profound, but at the same time, he never got away from working with the regular people, whites and blacks. Yeah. You know, because he actually set up the first mobile training unit for training people in some basic agricultural things, some of which aren't done here yet, like crop rotation. Yeah. You know, and also planting crops that re-energize the soil. Now, it's one thing to say he did that, but another thing to understand that when he did it, the South of America, these crackers had burnt out like a third or more of the territories they were in terms of soil. So the soil was useless. Nothing would grow there because they continually planted cotton. Yeah. The cotton takes a lot out of the soil. They put nothing back, and guess what? Ultimately, they had to keep buying new land or expanding. His invention at the time allowed the South to revitalize itself. Okay? Yeah. You know, in mass. Yeah. Yeah, you know. He was a monster. He also, during World War II, I think it was, there was a shortage of, what was the material? There was a shortage of a particular material that was used to make vehicles, cars, and whatever, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the president of the country, that's a black man. And this was, this was like maybe in the 30s or whatever.
Would that be the internal combustion engine? And that would be Frederick
what's Jones. The name? Frederick Jones.
Yes.
No, this is what he did was during the, I think around late 1920s, what he did, the president of the country, they were in war. So the president of the country contacted a black scientist. This is the same time black folks were being lynched.
Yeah.
100, on average, 100 people a year. Okay? The president of the country found this black scientist and pleaded with him to come to Washington and work with them to develop products that would allow the war effort to go on. For example, he created plastics out of soy. He created there was a series of there was some bread. He created new means and products to be able to create new types of bread and also grains. He introduced new grains. And at that point, they didn't have the capacity to produce these other products. He additionally, 100 years ago, wrote about about biofuel and petrol. He said that right now, gasoline, and carbon, which is a carbon emitter. He talks about, he says, right now in this period of time, it is not fashionable, but it is the way of industry to use petrol. He said, but in the future, man will develop what we now know as biofuel. He said, all fuel will be coming from plant sources. 100 years ago. Okay. So along with his 200 inventions. So just as a person knowing of what this man did. And how did he say he did it? He was interviewed by white journalists, and they were like, because he reached the top honors in the country in terms of science, right? In his discipline, and they interviewed him and said, well, wait a minute. How are you able to do, how did you figure out this? How did you figure out that? And what made you know that this plant could be, he said, well, the plants, they talk to me. Okay?
That's how I know.
That's how I know. And then he just put the science on top of it. He was, that's who we are.
All right. Thanks for listening. And that's a wrap for this episode. For more exciting episodes like this, don't forget to follow our podcast, The Afropreneur Podcast, on all streaming sites, and visit our website at www.ogwenostephen.com. See you on the next one.